Hey, so I've been thinking about some possibilities to talk to you about with regard to lead playing or even bass playing or including some bass lines in your playing. So one of the concepts that we want to deal with is called approaches, and an approach is how we approach the next chord in a song. So we just need to learn some concepts about approaches. So here, what I want to talk about today is a chromatic approach. Chromatic has to do with the shortest distance that we can go in music. So our guitar is laid out chromatically because of the frets. So if I have my high E, I'm going up. The shortest distance is 1 fret. That is a chromatic step, or half step we'd call it. And then I keep going chromatically. I'm going to go to the next one and the next one. I'm making what's called a chromatic scale all the way up the neck until I get to the 12th fret. And when I get to the 12th fret, it's the same note, an octave higher as the note I started on. So it sounds the same in many ways, only higher. So this is an E. So this is an E. So that's chromatic. So I want to talk about chromatic approaches to chords for you. And so say we're in the key of C. So C. Here's my C chord that I know. It's kind of hard to see a C, but there's my C chord that I know. You can also play it like that. There we go. I prefer this one. Sounds more folksy and country to me. And it obviously shows where my C is at on that 5th string, that 3rd fret. There's my C. So A sharp or B flat, B to C. So I'm going to approach the C chord from a lower chromatic step. So here's my C. So then the fret before that is my approach note, and I'm approaching C. So I'm playing along. Maybe I'm still playing C, I don't know. And I'm going to approach that C again from that lower chromatic pitch, that B. Here we go. Again. Just a half step or 1 fret below. That would be a lower chromatic approach. So I'm just coming to that chord from a half step or 1 fret below that the pitch of the chord. So I'm C chord, I'm coming from the half step below it and hitting that. So now in the key of C, there is a C chord, of course. The 4 chord is the F chord. There's the small F chord. There's this great big one here, the bar chord. I'll just show you on this one. Less fingers to get in the way. So my F note, 3rd fret, 4th string, there's my F. So if I'm approaching this F chord with a lower chromatic approach, that when I change chords, I'm going to hit this E, 2nd fret, going to the 3rd fret of the F chord. Yeah. So I'm going to approach that chord from 1 fret below where the chord is. Yep. So I'm going from my C chord, bum, and I'm going to approach the F chord because I'm changing chords. Here we go. And then I go back to C with my lower chromatic approach and change back to F. So I'm using the fret right below the chord to change. That's called a lower chromatic approach. And I probably need to quit because I don't know if I have enough time or have too much time on this video. I might have to trim it down to be able to text it to you. Well, I can put it up on YouTube. Let's keep going. So there's my C, my F. Now, my next chord in the key of C that I often use, my C to F, is my G chord. This is a simple version of G. So my G is here. It's the lowest note of the chord. It's called a G chord, so G. And now I'm going to approach the G from the lower chromatic step. So I'm here. I'm going to back up one fret and then come to there to play my G. So bum, bum. That'd be an F sharp, bum, bum. And these are really important because that lower chromatic step really leads strongly to that next chord. So this F sharp really leads me to G. The B, and for the C, really leads me to C. And it's a very directive way of changing chords. Now, the E really leads me to that F. So it sounds like I'm purposely going to those chords. So here, if we're just going 2 measures of C, 2 measures of F, 2 measures of G, it'd sort of maybe be like this. Bum, bum, F to G, C, played an F chord, again, C, change into F, E, F, and then change to G, F sharp, G, B, C. Approaches. Now this is an important concept for bass lines, of course, but it's also an important concept for lead lines. Lead lines, you always are thinking about the next chord you're going to and what notes are in that chord, and you're learning to approach whatever target note that you're going to with some type of approach. And it could be a chromatic approach, maybe. It could be using a scale, and we're going to learn some scales very soon in our lessons. So it could be from a scale approach. So anyway, learn a little bit about chromatic scales, half steps, 1 fret at a time, 1 fret below. We could also approach the note from 1 fret above. It sounds a little bit different. So if I'm going from C to F, I could go to the fret above and then back down to change my approach. But here's what it'd sound like, a little different, not as leading, but here's my C, changing to F, might be useful. And then I change to my G, here's my G, here's the fret above it. This is and then I'm coming back down to G. So from F, and then C, I would change. Here's my fret above C and back down. Now it's not as powerful in this sense, it's not quite as leading, but it is an approach. So that would be an upper chromatic approach coming down to the note of the chord I'm going to. Those are great things for like a walking bass line that you might use in Western swing, plus also lead lines. You're going to approach notes from above it and come back down to it. So that would be something to think about. So approach notes. So I want you to practice in the key of C. My chords are C, F, and G. All right? C, F, and G. I want you to practice finding the lower chromatic approaches to those chords, C, F, and G. And I also want you to practice in the key of G, my three chords right now, G, C, and D. I want you to find those lower chromatic approaches to the next chord. So they're pretty similar. You have two of the same ones in common. And then we have our D. That's a tricky one because where's that lower chromatic note? Well, this D is an open string, so we're going to have to find it on the string below that. So you remember maybe what you learned about tuning when you first started guitar, that if you fret on the 5th fret, that string matches. So I fretted on the 5th fret of the 5th string, and it matches the open 4th string, which is the D string. So if that's the same note, then a lower chromatic note would be the fret below that. Like that. Now I don't have to fret that. I could just fret this 4th fret, C sharp, and then go to the open string and play my D chord. So like that. Sounds the same. Yeah. I can fret it with my pinky to reach. All right. So that's how you'd find that lower chromatic note for an open string. Yeah. So other keys that we would play in, the key of D, of course. 2 notes in common there. You have your D, you have your G, and then you have your A. Well, with this one, we already learned G, and we've learned D now. Now our A chord, look, here's another open string. So we're going to have to do that same little rule about here's the matchy note on the 5th fret of the 6th string to the 5th string open. There's my A. And I'm going to come down 1 fret below it to the 4th fret and come up. There's my lower chromatic approach to the A chord. So I can play that A there, or I could play the open A below it and play my A chord. That's what I would do. I could use my pinky so I could reach those notes quicker. So that's the key of D. D, G, and A are the 3 primary chords in that key. Just finding those lower chromatic approaches for keys like that we kind of know how to play in would be a good idea to talk about in our lesson. but also just to practice finding those approaches. That's going to help you down the road as we're talking about target notes for lead lines and things like that. Okay?